Hi Gemini, welcome to your June 2019 Astrology 33 bonus love reading. This is normally the reading that I do for the sign whose previous month's video had the most views, likes, and new subscribers. But this month I decided I'm going to do it for all the signs to give you guys a look at how the reading goes. And basically, this is a newer spread that I started for these readings too. I used to do the past, present, future spread for these readings. Now I actually started something that I referred to as the bridging the gap spread. So first of all, what you see in front of you, there's different decks than I use for the normal readings. We have the Lover's Path Tarot on the left, which these three cards will represent your energy. And then on the right, we have the Tarot of Sex Magic, and that would represent your love interest energy. And first position here for both sides, we have your past energy towards the connection, their past energy, your present energy, their present energy, your future energy, their future energy. So, it's nothing too crazy. And then once we get through that, at the end, we tie it all together with some oracle cards. So we'll pull those after we look at the main spread, though. So my first impression with these cards is that this connection seems like a bit of a hot mess. And I doubt that opinion is going to change as I go through the cards, but we'll see though. And then we'll see what the oracle card is going to add to the mix too. So, I don't want to assume, but it definitely seems like this definitely might have gone off the rails pretty bad. But yeah, sorry to break the news to you. Happy birthday to you guys too, by the way. But yeah, and the position of your past energy towards the connection, we have the 10 of coins, which is basically the 10 of pentacles, and then we have the 10 of cups. So two 10 energies, two very positive 10 energies too, the two better 10s you can get. But what I'm seeing with this is that, this was something, a connection that you were really putting work into and that you really envisioned going the distance. That's the vibe that I'm getting there. But what I will say, seeing these two cards together in this way, what I would say is, this could represent the fact that you're really putting in the work toward the connection, but maybe possibly doing it under the overly idealized, romanticized view of the connection, because with the 10 of cups in the Rider-Waite and also in this deck here that you see, you have those cups in the rainbow. So to me, that could represent, kind of like that fantasy type view of something. And then with this deck in particular, if you look at the artwork, it looks like some stormy waters there, right? So to me, you could say that, really you were building something that you thought was on a firm foundation and was going to be long lasting, but maybe you had this idealized vision of it, so maybe you weren't seeing the full picture clearly. And what really colored that opinion for me was what came out on their side more than anything, to be honest with you. And before I forget to, let me just mention that this is a general reading for some of you, while it's supposed to represent your energy on this side and theirs on this side, it could be the other way around too. So feel that out. Since it is a general reading, it could definitely be flipped for some of you. So if you're feeling like, as I'm going through these cards, they sound more like your energy, and this sounds more like the other person, then definitely trust that, alright? But yeah, so get into their energy, their past energy toward the connection. We have the 3 of Cups and the Wheel of Fortune. So see, normally you wouldn't necessarily see those cards as a guarantee of something necessarily negative going on, but especially for me personally, like I feel like a lot of readers sometimes make that jump to third-party situations with 3 of Cups a little bit too quickly. I don't normally see it that way, but in this particular case, that really did jump out to me, quite frankly. I mean, well, the artwork here is the artwork. It's a totally different deck, but we have the 3 of Cups there, and then with the Wheel of Fortune, it just so happens that there's 3 women in there too. So that just really, to me, popped out as a third-party vibe. And this does represent Sagittarius energy, by the way. And right now Jupiter is in the sign of Sagittarius. And it's going retrograde now. So what that could be doing really is, if you have been overlooking this, going back to what I was saying there with the Ten of Cups in your past position, and like I said, in this particular deck, that artwork is worth noting with like the stormy waters there, to say that maybe, something that you hadn't been looking at while Jupiter was going in, regular motion, maybe as it's retrograded now, it's brought some of these things to your attention, where maybe now you're starting to see things a little bit more clearly and realize that maybe they're not to that they're up to no good, basically. um, and then in the present position for your energy, we have transformation. So this is actually the equivalent of the Death card in the regular Rider-Waite, and that's a Scorpio energy. So I see this a couple ways. One way, this could actually be pointing to that full moon in Scorpio. Because by the time we release this video, basically the full moon would have already happened. But the present, you could have a little bit of flexibility with that. So maybe something came about during the full moon that really made you realize that maybe you wanted to leave this connection. And if we look at the names on this particular card too, we have Pluto and Persephone. So to me, what that could represent too is this could have definitely been an on again, off again type connection. So it definitely gives me like a karmic relationship vibe, where you guys might have just been in this cycle where maybe they'd been up to no good from the beginning, but maybe for whatever reason you take them back, right? You think to yourself again with that Ten of Cups energy. Underneath the Ten of Coins, you're like, you know what, we could still work on it, maybe kind of turning a blind eye, because again, I keep getting drawn back to that the stormy waters in this Ten of Cups, and that's what makes me think with that Ten of Coins, it almost gives me like a tower vibe, as far as thinking you're building the foundation on something strong, but really, the foundation isn't as strong as you thought it was. So, and that's something to keep in mind with Jupiter moving through your seventh house as well, is, yes, it could definitely bring good connections to your life, but it can also really emphasize the ones that are bad. You can't really ignore it anymore, because Jupiter is just an energy of expansion. So yes, it'll bring more opportunities for relationships, and yes, they can be lucky, but if you had one around that was already bad and you needed to let it go, people sleep on that particular part of Jupiter, which is to say, it can bring those things to light. And another thing with this Ten of Cups energy too is, this represents the last 10 degrees of Pisces. And that's where Mercury was last retrograde. Mercury being your ruler, you guys are normally affected by retrogrades more than most. And it actually did form a square with Jupiter a few times during that transit. First it passed it going forward, then retrograded to it, and then crossed it again as it went forward again. So that could have been when, as far as past energy goes, when these things were really getting brought home to you, that, all right, you know what, I wasn't seeing this connection very clearly, but now I can't hide it anymore. It's pretty much, the death doesn't always have to mean leaving something behind. It can mean transformation, and just, well, obviously it's literally called transformation here, but could represent just, changing the dynamics of the connection. But here I'm really feeling like this is you just being done with it. But, I could be wrong. Like I said, maybe when those Oracle cards come out, it paints a totally different picture, but I'm just going off my first impressions here. This just kind of looks like a bit of a mess, quite frankly. And like I said, I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but this really, really looks like a mess. Their present energy towards the connection, we have the Six of Swords, the Eight of Pentacles, and the Magician card. So immediately the first thing that jumped out to me with these three cards is, I'm thinking to myself, if you think of the Six of Swords energy in the Rider-Waite, for example, it's the person moving on, right? Leaving something behind. The Eight of Pentacles is actually working towards something. And then the Magician is manifesting energy, right? But on the more negative side, if you think of what a magician does, right? they're showing you one thing while they're doing another. So with these three cards together, what I'm really picking up on here is, them trying to say to you, oh yeah, I left that other person behind. That's done now, right? Because I mean, it even kind of looks like the people in the past position here in the Three of Cups. They might be saying, I left that behind. It's over now, right? Look at the Eight of Pentacles. The guy has a rose in his hand, like, oh yeah, I'm over it now. I'm trying to work on fixing things between us, right? But is that really what they're about? Are they, once again, just pulling another trick, right? And especially, I should point out, too, you guys on the bottom of the deck on your side, you actually have the Magician as well. It's just called Magic here, but same card. So that's definitely worth noting. But that's really the vibe that I'm getting. And, like I said, we'll see what happens when the Oracle cards come out. Maybe I'm just bashing this person for some reason, and I really shouldn't be, but it's just jumping out at me. Like, this person's up to some shady business. I don't know. Like I said, you guys will know your situation better than me, and for some of you, again, like I said, for some of you, this could represent your energy. If that's the case, you would know if that's what you've been up to, too. So I don't even have to elaborate on that any further. But yeah. In the future position, your energy towards the connection, we have the Nine of Arrows. So the equivalent of the Nine of Swords. It's not all that different from the Rider-Waite's Nine of Swords, right? You could see the person definitely doesn't look like they're in the best of shape. This is actually a Gemini card, too. This represents the middle 10 degrees of Gemini. So this just tells me you have anxiety over the situation, losing a lot of sleep, Again, especially if this is a karmic connection, which I picked up on that vibe pretty heavily. Even if you do decide, you know what, I'm cutting this person off, right after you do it, you might actually feel bad about it, So that could be what's going on there. Like, even though you feel like your higher self knows I got to get away from this person, maybe it's one of those easier said than done situations, right? But what I will say is, while I did mention a Magician being at the bottom of the deck, maybe pointing to their energy almost as a warning for you. Another way I could say this could be a warning too is to say, look, you have this manifestation power yourself right now, especially, it's going to be your birthday month. You're going to have the sun in your sign. Mercury's going to be there, at least for a little bit. It's going to move on pretty early in June, and then Venus will be there, I think, around the 10th. So, and that's definitely a good energy to have for your love life. So, there's something to keep in mind there, which is to say, hey, you have pretty high manifestation energy on your side too. So just be careful not to get caught up in that cycle and then end up putting that energy to waste, And like I said, I get it. It can be easier said than done, especially if this is pointing to a karmic connection. Those do tend to be hard to pull away from. And I forgot to mention as well that, I mentioned the first angle, which was this could be pointing to that full moon in Scorpio that we would have been having right before your season starts. But this could also be pointing to the fact that right now you have some heavy transits going on in your 8th house, because Scorpio is the natural ruler of the 8th house. And in your 8th house of Capricorn, there's a lot going on. Saturn is sitting with the South Node, so that's a really karmic transit there. Pluto's not that far away from it. Speaking of Pluto, right, the name is on the card there, so I could just really, really be having you reevaluating these types of connections and, maybe having to let go of the ones that just really aren't healthy for you. All right, and then in their position in the future energy, we have the Tower card. So, I mean, that could be one of those situations where, you could see the artwork there. That person in the background doesn't look like he's too happy with what he sees. So, this could be saying that person still being on their same old BS maybe ends up getting caught, right? This could just represent maybe even you cutting them off, not literally, hopefully, right? But you just cutting them off comes as a shock to them, because again, if this was a really strong karmic connection, and they're coming off as that Magician energy in the present, they might have felt like, oh, they could just smooth talk their way back into your life and everything would be fine, right? Like, oh, and then when you tell them, no, you're not having it, they might be like, oh, okay, didn't see that coming, So that could be what's going on there. Um, so that could be one way that you bring the tower energy to them. But aside from that, I would say the only other way that I really see that playing out is just whatever they're up to is going to catch up to them some way, whether it's from you or from the other person or just in general karmically for what they've been up to, if I really did read the story correctly. And then at the bottom of their deck, they actually have the Seven of Cups. So, that energy is all about confusion. I'm not seeing things clearly, illusion, and then also it could represent just having multiple options too. So maybe this person just doesn't seem like they're in the right headspace to have a serious relationship. So that's one nice way to put it, right? Like I feel like I've really been vilifying them, but it just looks like a hot mess. Maybe, like I said, we'll see. We'll start pulling some oracle cards now and see if we get a different twist on it. But yeah, first I'm going to pull a couple from this Mystic Moon Oracle deck that I have. We'll pull one that represents your unspoken messages to them, and then their unspoken messages to you. That's where the bridging the gap dynamic comes in. And then I also use the Wisdom of the Oracle deck here too, which I use in the general readings to give us a general overview of the situation as well. So let's see if we can get one message as far as unspoken words from you toward them. And like I said, this is the fun part of it, right? These are pretty straightforward cards, which is why I like them, because, they're not some huge mystery, and sometimes the spreads themselves can be a bit mysterious and open-ended, whereas these are pretty straightforward messages in these cards. So we'll see what they have to say. And like I said, maybe when these cards come out, it'll give me a whole different viewpoint on what's going on. But I don't know. It's coming across pretty clear to me there that at least for a pretty good chunk of you, I feel like that might be the type of person you're dealing with. So, you have to decide if that's something you want to continue to deal with or not. This be a pretty good time to make a break. If that is the kind of person you're dealing with and you do feel like you are done with that. Oh, there we go. 2 cards actually came up for you. So we'll keep them both. And then we'll see if there's any messages from them toward you. Almost had one come out there. And then I kind of feel these out too. So, if I feel like I'm shuffling forever and nothing's coming up, I trust that. Like, okay, there's nothing else to add from their side towards you, but, we'll give it a little bit. Let's see if anything pops out. I don't know. I almost feel like even this deck is giving me like a shady vibe from them. It's like the cards feel like they're sticking a bit more for them. It's kind of crazy. And like I said, of all the months for a reading like this, it sucks that it's your birthday month. But if it is something that you've kind of known that you did have to let go though, and you were just kind of looking for confirmation for that, then maybe this is what you need to just find something better. But yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling like nothing's coming up from their end. I'll give it a couple more shuffles, and if nothing pops up, nothing pops up. Generally speaking, I don't like to pull cards from the top. I like to have one pop out to me as an indicator that it's a card that we'd use. Yeah, so that's it. I don't think we're going to get anything from their side. So let's look at the 2 you had. All right, we have I Still Love You, and I've looked you up online to see what you've been up to. Interesting. So, well, you know what? Quite frankly, it's interesting because, like I said, I got that feeling like this just spoke to me as like a karmic connection, definitely. You know what I mean? Like that death card there, the way it came up, and just these cards compared to those, I really get that vibe there. And then, like I said, that could be the difficulty. Like you might know, like these 8 arrows, and then the ninth one there could represent all the reasons you know why you shouldn't want to be with this person anymore. But yet, and still, it's hard for you to break that connection. You know. Um, And then what stood out to me with the second one, I've looked you up online to see what you've been up to. Maybe that's where you found out exactly what they've been up to. You know what I mean? Maybe you were like checking out their social media and you're like, wow, okay, they're really doing the most out here. But yeah, like I said, I mean, what I'm seeing, and I don't know. This doesn't look like a very healthy connection to me at all. But we'll see what the wisdom of the oracle card can add to the mix too. So, like I said, this is the main one that I use in our general readings as well. But yeah, we'll see what messages this deck has to add, and then we'll wrap up. Almost had one there. Kind of a heavy reading. Oh, there we go. All right, Between Worlds. Okay, I mean that almost speaks about. I mean that's a good callback to that Pluto card we have there, the transformation and the Pluto Persephone connection and everything. But yeah, let's see what the messages say. All right. Essential meaning says transitions, not being quite out of one situation and fully engaged in another, temporary blindness, no man's land. I mean, you can't even make this stuff up. Like, if I could get it to, yeah, that's what it says under the essential meanings. Transitions, pointing to the transformation energy to me. Not being quite out of one situation and fully engaged in another. That almost calls to me exactly what we see going on there. But yeah, we'll keep reading. Sorry. The oracle's message says, between the worlds is where you must let go of the tendency to make assumptions. This is a time when you are unable to see what is ahead. Cultivate curiosity and trust the process of change and growth. You are done learning the lessons of recent experiences. In this place, between what was and what will be, is a state of making and unmaking and making again. What is essential now is to admit not knowing. There is great freedom and power to be unleashed. A mystery that is not yours to understand weaves the web of life within a divine matrix of consciousness greater than your own thoughts, feelings, beliefs, desires, and decisions. The seeds that were planted in the past begin to take root, but what surfaces will probably not be what you expect. When you are between the worlds, you are invited to see with the curious eyes of a child glimpsing a rainbow for the first time. Do so, and you will not be disappointed. So it's pretty funny. The first sentence almost sounded like it was calling me out, right? It was like, between worlds is where you must let go of the tendency to make assumptions. Like I said, maybe this isn't as bad as it's coming across for me. I don't know. This just doesn't seem good at all. But like I said, if you guys got a different vibe from those cards, because normally those aren't by themselves really bad cards. Well, obviously the Tower, but So if you guys got a different vibe from that too, by all means trust that too. But that's just what I was seeing, and it was calling out to me pretty heavy. The relationship message says this is a time to explore the new energy between you and another. It is not a moment for certainty, but rather for discovery and curiosity. You don't yet know if this will last forever, so allow yourself to explore who you are and what is reflected back to you. This relationship is meant to educate you about yourself. What do you need? What do you like or dislike? What values are important to you? You are in a critical phase of your relationship that is not to be dismissed or hurried. So, like I said, definitely doesn't seem as grim of an outlook as I was feeling with these cards, to be honest with you, and hopefully that is the case for you, because like I said, this sounds like a pretty rough one if you're just strictly going off my interpretation of the cards. But I mean, that's the vibe that I was getting there, and maybe you guys are all right with that too, if that's what's going on. I don't know, but that was just what I was feeling. So we'll wrap up there, guys. Like I said, happy birthday once again. If you want to book a personal reading with me, you can check out the description of the video for more info on that. You can also follow me on Instagram, where we have a little bit more fun with tarot and astrology there. And if you'd like to donate to the channel as well, there is some info on that as well. All right, guys. Well, I'll see you next month. Bye.